might be wondering, is that a Canon C200 on top of what looks like to be a tiny slider? Yes, in fact, it is. What I did was I put a Canon C200 on a tiny slider mini, that is. This is my newest acquisition. It is a $250, at least that's what I paid, $250 motorized mini slider, hence Slider Mini. It is made by a company you may never have heard of before. In fact, as far as I know, this company, iSmartta, that's right, iSmartta, is based out of China, apparently, and had an Indiegogo campaign, which I stumbled upon. And this thing, I have to say, is built fantastically. It works as advertised. There's a companion iOS or Android app that also works really, really well. And, well, I felt after doing the iFootage, iSmartta, anyway, after doing the iFootage Shark slider review, I thought that this Slider Mini review from iSmartta would in fact be a good companion. So here we go. And as you know, with every YouTube video about a product, there must be an unboxing. An unboxing so fantastic that you feel as if you've already unboxed the item yourself and henceforth do not need to go out and buy it. I'm not going to put in that much effort. Instead, what I'm going to do is stop the slider, put it back in the box, and then pretend that this is the very first time that I've ever seen it. So, here we go. The Slider Mini comes in a very nice box. It reminds you of an Apple product. It is white, the font is nice, there's not much marketing material on the box, just this name. And then when you open it up, it makes a whooshing sound, and then there's the user manual right on top. The user manual, as you will come to see, posed a little bit of a challenge to me. I could not open the user manual, not because the user manual was in any way defective, but because me, could not open the user manual. There's a QR code, as you can see, that is to download the application. I just put in the iSmartta Go search request, and it came up with the application, which is free to download. Okay, so you take this little cardboard box thingy out, which has a little bit of stuff that we'll talk about, and here's the slider. It's packaged really, really well. The slider is made of metal, alloy of some sort. It could be aluminum, it could be titanium, I don't know what the hell it is. It just feels solid. And you're not going to bend this, unlike an iPad. This thing will last you as long as you take good care of it. There's a USB-C port there. There's a screw mount for putting it on a tripod. You have 4 rubber feet on the bottom that will hold your slider in place. There's nothing on this right side, nothing on the back. And then on the left side, there is a button with 4 LEDs, which we're going to take a look at later. Now, in this little box, you get several wires. When I purchased this on Indiegogo, they gave me the option of getting shutter release cords that one end will go into that USB socket that we talked about, or there's a smaller jack in there that will also take the cord. And the other end is going to go to your camera, whichever one. But if it has USB or USB-C capability, then that's what it's going to use. If it's shutter releases through one of these, 3.5-inch doohickey things, then you can use it that way too. And to charge this slider, you have a USB-C to USB-A charging cord, which is really nice. That came with that. Sometimes companies don't do that, and there's nothing in the middle. It's just blank. Now let's take a look at this slider and let's see if I can turn it on. I always have problems with devices that require you to press once and then press again and hold it. DJI does that. Some other companies do that. I had forgotten whether this one does or not, so I'm going to try the DJI method first. Regardless, It's not that difficult to turn this thing on. Once you actually power on this device, you're going to see 4 green LEDs. That also shows your charging capacity. And the first thing that the slider is going to do after turning on is move all the way to the left position. Now, unlike some sliders, this thing will actually go all the way to the left. So you got to watch and make sure that there's no debris or anything that's going to prevent the slider from sliding all the way to the edge. My slider came with this little attachment. They said it was free. I think that it's necessary. It will screw on to the base, and then the top screw will actually let me screw on my universal head. My universal head wouldn't just screw onto the base itself. There's a difference in screw mounts. So I bought this Cinephoto Arca Swiss head, ball head. I love it. I love Arca Swiss ball heads. I think they're just fantastic, and everybody should have at least one. I have many. So I screwed this on so that I can interchange cameras back and forth. And once you tighten everything down, make sure that it is where you want it to be. You can adjust the ball head to any degree that it will allow you in order to get the shot while still being able to use the slider. Now, one of the things that I had some issue with is because the slider is fairly compact, it is incredibly compact. It's going to tip over if you have too much weight one way or the other. Here is the companion app that comes with this slider. I think it's really good. I'm afraid that it's not in focus, and I apologize for that. I didn't know at the time that it wasn't in focus. In any event, there are 3 different categories. There's stop motion, there's loop, there is also just a regular mode that you go left to right, right to left. The loop is going to go back and forth. You can change the speed, and once you change the speed, it'll actually tell you how long it's going to take to traverse the distance on the slider. You change the speed, you change the time. It'll take 20 seconds to traverse the whole thing at 100% speed. And as you can see, here we go. And the speed isn't fast. I mean, it's not quick, but I think it's perfect if you're doing product photography, if you're trying to get just the right shot. This is a good speed, whatever it is. I don't know what it is. It looks fast enough for me. And in fact, you're going to see later on in this review that the 100% speed is plenty. So here's me doing that ridiculous thing. I'm putting on my C200 on this thing. And I put it on sideways because the lens that I'm using is really heavy and it's going to tip it over to one end to the other. But here it is, fully loaded out. This camera, the way it is right now, weighs probably 5 to 6 pounds. The iSmartta rig can hold up to, I think, 11 pounds. The head that I have is advertised to hold up to 24 pounds, so this should be plenty. And as you can see, it works real good. It just starts up and it goes over. Now, one of the things I had in mind was, okay, so if it goes to the end, is it going to tip over? That's why I put my fingers on the right end there, right edge. And no, it doesn't. It actually holds it just fine. And look, I took my hand off the right side and it's holding steady. So we're going to move back towards the right from the left and see what happens. And it seems to be moving just fine. I like this thing. I really do like this. This is the next level of portable slider. And it just works. What can I say? Anything that's this small and powerful enough to move my C200 is definitely worth taking a look at. So what I did was I decided to do a little product photography sort of thing. This is my C200. This is the lens on top. I'm currently using my A7 III with my 90mm macro, Sony macro. And I put it on autofocus, and it was having a little bit of a problem focusing. That's really just the camera and the lens combination and the distance at which I was using this. And the camera is struggling to really find focus. So what I did was I decided, hey, what would happen if I activated the slider and at the same time I tried to do manual focus? How is that going to affect the movement? So as you're going to see later on in just a few seconds, that's what I did. I kept it on a loop back and forth. I kept the speed at approximately 70%, which was traversal speed or traversal time about 30 seconds or so from one end to the other. And I decided to see if it's going to impact the way that the slider moves if I'm also focusing manually. And there's going to be a picture-in-picture effect. In just a second, you'll be able to see that. And as you'll come to find out, it wasn't easy for me to do this because I was holding my iPhone in one hand, my right hand, trying to keep the slider from tipping over because I have a heavy 90mm macro on this A7 III, and also focus at the same time and also take a look at the screen. So I was multitasking to an extreme. But I think that I eventually got the hang of it after multiple loops back and forth, and I was able to kind of move with the camera, and I do see a little bit of movement when I'm adjusting. Part of the problem is that I'm having a really difficult time not impacting the camera and the lens and the slider with my left hand as it's moving back and forth. So I think that if I did not have my right hand occupied with my iPhone, it would have been a lot more smooth. But even as it is, it's not bad. I think if you applied image stabilization into your editing software, it would take care of a little bit of the jitters that are caused by my hand shaking and movement as I'm working on the lens. And other than that, it's a fairly good slider for what it does for you. Is it ultra smooth? Absolutely not. No. I mean, when you use a macro lens like the 90mm that I have here, you definitely get to see how good the motor on any slider is. And you know what? It's a good motor. It works really well if you're using wide-angle lenses and if you're not impacting the lens like I am. Ultimately, is this a good option for somebody who wants to take a slider? Yeah, I think so. Now, would I recommend this to you? Absolutely. It's $250. It's not cheap. But if you want something small and you're not really using your slider for big productions, this is a great option. Great option for time-lapse, great option for photographers, great option for videographers.